which turned out to be an 8-hour wait, until I was taken to surgery and joke and fun with the clock. There were some complications in the operating room that my surgeon had to tend to while I was waiting. I mentioned to the nurse that he must be having a rough time. Obviously, I wasn't sounding really kind, and she looked at me and she says, yes, he is. And you know what the good news are? It is not you he is operating on for the last 6 or 7 hours. Boy, that doesn't bring you and humble you. I had arrived to the hospital around 7 a.m. It was now past 4 p.m. and my patient was running thin. Anxiety and claustrophobia do not react well to being trapped. Besides, there were no windows and I had nothing for mouth since the previous evening. I had become concerned that the radioactive dye would not be visible and the results not clear. The nurse reassured me that everything was going to be okay. In the meantime, I continued to engage in constant prayer, trying not to lose focus. And I walked around and around the room. It's a round room. You feel like a hamster for hours on end. Time stood still. Later in the afternoon, I realized that the Lord had been waiting with me all along, and I could feel his enormous presence, and a sense of peace again came over me. A little after 4, the surgeon finally comes in. He brings the Geiger counter, checks my chest and my underarm, and reports that the radioactive dye is still strong. He says, I'm going to go get something to eat and I will meet you in the surgery. Remember, he'd been there longer than I had been waiting. So I said, oh, eat well, meet you there. And then things started to move fast. My last prayer was for the doctor to come and tell Joe that the lymph nodes were clear and that the cancer had been removed. Then the surgery nurse asked me if I was nervous. I said, no, just a little stressed. That is all I remember. That was the end. I woke up in a room. It was late at night, 9 something. All I knew was that my prayers had been heard, and the doctor had told Joe that the procedure had been successful, and the lymph nodes were clean. I was not in much discomfort except for the drains coming out of my flanks. They came out from here. There was not much pain on my chest, and I was tightly wrapped. Morning came. This is the morning, just a few hours after. The surgeon and his entourage arrived and felt I was doing well enough to go home. And I was absolutely elated. I got dressed, put my boots on, my victory symbols, and we went home less than a day after surgery. I went home. Cancer under control, happy, relieved, grateful, blessed, all of the above. The results, lymph node negative for tumor, and cancer had not extended beyond the markings. The drains made for a somewhat difficult recovery. They stick out, they have to be emptied twice a day, and a procedure that includes alcohol cups and blood removed and measured. And sometimes you get blood clots, and they need to be stripped from the tubes. So somebody needs to be doing that long thing, and he did it all twice a day. It needs to be done. It has to be done. I saw the oncologist, who happily reported that my cancer was a stage 1, and I would not need aggressive treatment. I would need tamoxifen for at least 10 years to keep the cancer under control. Tamoxifen blocks the actions of estrogen in the body. I take these pills daily with a deep sense of gratitude. This tiny pill is so powerful, so full of goodness, giving me another chance to health and life. A few days later, I developed a large seroma, fluid-filled cyst on the left side, and a large hematoma, blood fluid cyst, on the other side. They looked like small breasts, and I thought, did I grow breasts again? They just took them out. What's happening? I was seen by the doctor who sent me back to the hospital the next morning to be drained. More waiting. The doctor removed several large syringes of blood from one side and more fluid from the other and put a new set of drains in place. This drain system came from the top of where my breast used to be. And it was just as uncomfortable as the first set. And here Joe came and proceeded with the twice-a-day familiar job of emptying the tubes and the drains. I have to say the drains bother me more than the mastectomy. I had no pain from the mastectomy. I had no pain meds for the mastectomy, but I did take a couple of Tylenol for the drains. But it needed to be done, and I thought, thank you for the opportunity. You know, I get to be well after this. While I still had my second set of drains, I was introduced to a lady who told me that her mother had participated in the preliminary studies and testing of tamoxifen many years ago. She eventually died from cancer, having received a placebo instead. Her eyes filled with tears, and I thanked her for her mother's sacrifice so I could have this chance. I am so grateful for those who volunteered to try these drugs for me. We held hands and said a prayer of thanks for the valiant mother. During this journey, I have met women who are in the process of fighting breast cancer at this very moment, who have undergone mastectomy, single, double, radical, women who have had treatment that made them so very ill, and I am so very blessed. While doing therapy for my knee replacement, remember the one I was so proud of? I met a woman who was a cancer survivor and undergone a single mastectomy. She was so very encouraging. Life moves on, she said. You will be okay. Breast cancer is no longer a death sentence, especially if found early. A few days later, while working at a food show, the guest quilter told me that she was a cancer survivor and had had a double mastectomy. Life is good, she shared. And then a dear friend from Canada announced the discovery of her breast cancer. Thankfully, she has finished her therapy and is now in remission. And while at Weight Watchers meeting, a member comes to me and tells me, let me talk to you. Look, I have had a mastectomy. I am okay. We're a sisterhood of strong women. I have had women ask, why a double mastectomy? Well, because I did not want to be looking over my shoulder every year at the time of the mammogram, thinking that something may have changed. My breasts were wonderful. They did what they were supposed to do. I nursed my children, and I looked darn good in my younger years. I'm grateful to have had them this long. It wasn't that bad. I have also been asked about reconstruction, and really, I have decided that I will not have one. I am who I am. I have no problems with the new me. I am not defined by a pair of breasts. I am who I am without breasts. Just not for me. A few weeks ago, I had lunch with a friend. She has had many cancers and surgeries, and is a true survivor. We both agreed that this journey has made us stronger, more appreciative of life and family, and less tolerant of nonsense. And I watched another good friend not only lose her beloved daughter in an accident, but walk the cancer walk. I told myself years ago, as I watched her go through her struggles, followed by surgery, chemotherapy, hair loss, if I ever found myself in that predicament, I hope to show the same strength, faith, dignity, and grace that she has shown throughout. And I hope I have been able to be a faint shadow of her strength.
Thank you, Maria.
You're welcome, Anne.
Thank you for sharing this story.
Thank you.
I cannot emphasize enough the need for early detection. Know your family history. I have nothing to go by, no real family history to speak of. In my country, in that generation, my mother and my grandmother's generation, you didn't go for mammograms. You didn't go have a doctor touch your breasts. You didn't talk about this. And if you had cancer, I think Bernie said it so well, you died from consumption. You didn't know what you died of, but you died. So they didn't deal with it. There was a suspicion that my mother had breast cancer, but nobody ever really did anything. In the beginning, I said I was diligent in my care, never missing my yearly mammogram, monthly sales exams, doctor's checkups, and still I was surprised with cancer. But remember, it was in the beginning stages, and because of diligent care, because of technology, because of educating myself, I find myself here today in this situation. I am grateful beyond words. An army of people have marched by my side during this war against cancer. My physicians, my family, my friends, my children, who without knowing turned me into a pillar of strength. I consider myself one blessed woman. I know my parents and loved ones now in heaven watch and guide me. But my faith has been the glue to keep it all together. I have a favorite song that describes so vividly why in the presence of the Lord, in the true presence of Him, I feel like I do, and why when I walked through the doors of the church that morning after my mammogram, when I did not know what else to do, I felt that strength. You probably know it. It's called On Holy Ground, and it goes like this if you haven't heard it. When I walked through the doors, I sensed His presence, and I knew this was a place where love abounds, for this is a temple. The God we love abides here. We are standing in His presence on holy ground. We're standing on holy ground, and I know there are angels all around. Let us praise Him now, for we're standing in His presence on holy ground. In His presence I know there is joy beyond all measure, and at His feet, sweet peace of mind can still be found. For when we have a need, He is still the answer. Reach out and claim it, for we're standing on holy ground. And it goes on, but that gives you an idea. So I know the Lord keeps me in the palm of His hand. If I did not have faith, if I did not believe, this journey would have been a whole different experience. I am changed. I am still in my heart. Life, death, stress, pain, loss, illness, it changes you, but it doesn't have to be for the worst. I never had a why me moment. Instead, why not me? A few days ago, a friend wrote to me and said there is no better way to cope with grief than to do something good for someone else. I believe that. It goes for whatever situation you're experiencing that shakes you to the core. Find the good, the positive, and even if it doesn't make any sense to you at the time, pray, steady yourself, wait, because for everything there's a reason. Why not me? In closing, I want to say that I did make the wedding, and we danced, as we had before. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I am again humbled by your presence today. Thank you.